Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast. What is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Let me talk to you.
And boy, do we have a lot to talk about in the land of movies, TV, and comics.
Yeah, we do.
You are tuned in to the entertainment edition of the ODPH, and we definitely want to keep those conversations rolling after the show. So, Pat, where does everybody roll to?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Right on. Swing on over to the website. Social media links. Public Store links. Patreon links. Shout out to all our amazing patrons. One tier, $2 a month. The blog section. The classifieds, which has friends of the show, such as 3FM Podcast, Dragon Master Games, Nerd Initiative, and more. The directory. Pat, how many providers are we on?
193,716.
I don't question it, folks. He knows this like nobody's business. That is why he is a statistician to the stars. Also, a great music section, which has new music coming out. Perfect time for the summer. Mm-hmm. So if you wanted to go and update your playlist, go check out Brian Wolff and the Howlers. Second Suitor, Tom Jolu, shout out to the Robots, Floodlands. Basically, if you need new music, that's where you need to go. And for anything else that is the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. And always remember on social media to use the hashtag ODPHpod. Let us kick off this edition, Pad. We've got 3 great shows to talk about. Mm-hmm. What great show do you want to kick off with?
Let's start with the one I think people are kind of anticipating us talking about, and that's the latest episode of The Boys.
Yes, indeed. The penultimate season has gone in a lot of different directions, and the ultimate showdown forthcoming between Carl Urban's Butcher and Anthony Starr's Homelander and all the surrounding parties involved has really got pop culture talking. Mm-hmm. It's been a very interesting setup because obviously there's some themes that are, I would say...
polarizing?
Thank you, to put it mildly. I was trying to spin it a different way, but that's the only way you can describe it. But let's face it, if you've been watching the show since day one...
it's nothing new.
This has been the setup the entire time. Mm-hmm. So I can't really say there's anything that strays too far away from Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson's original comic series. This is probably one of the best adaptations from comic to small screen, big screen. Mm-hmm. They definitely keep the feel and the theme of this show. So Amazon Prime's hit series is rolling out another big episode that had a lot of people talking. Mm-hmm. So that being said, we are going to be talking about episode 4 of season 4 entitled Wisdom of the Ages. Now, if you're new to the ODPH, first and foremost, thank you for checking us out. Leave us a review on your favorite podcatcher. It definitely helps the algorithm. What we'd like to do is give you a spoiler-free statement about what we're going to be talking about. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, for whatever reason, we are just going to give you our thoughts, and then you can make the choice. After we give you a countdown, you can either stay on board, and we go into full, deep dive spoiler talk. So we don't hold anything back. We give you fair warning about this. Or if you have to pause the episode where we give the countdown, go catch up on said episode, and jump back in the conversation, because we definitely want to keep those conversations rolling. But we have to give you the choice is yours, because there's a lot to break down with this episode, and we really need to dive into it. But, Pad, first and foremost, let's get your spoiler-free statement on The Boys Episode 4.
Episode was absolutely incredible, start to finish. A lot of moments in this that had me sitting there going, what the hell am I watching? And I don't mean that in a bad way. Just I could not believe what was taking place on my television. And then once you got to the end... you know, I'm sitting there going, what a masterpiece. And I know the creator of the show, you know, the showrunner, the head executive producer has said in an interview before the episode aired last week in reference to Anthony Starr, who plays Homelander, quote, give that guy an Emmy already. I don't understand why it hasn't happened yet, close quote. And I went, yes, his performance has been very good, but I don't know if there's been one necessarily episode where I sat there and went, holy shit, like that was incredible. That was award worthy. That was like the most incredible performance I've ever seen until I watched this episode. In this episode, Anthony Starr was just on a whole different level than anyone else on screen. You know, I don't know what it was, whether he had a different bowl of cereal that morning or if he maybe got a different type of orange juice or milk or whatever it is, coffee he drinks in the morning before he starts his day. But oh my God, he tapped into another level. That it was just incredible from start to finish, and I'm very interested to see where this goes from here.
This is going to be the episode that wins him that Emmy.
It has to be.
No question about it.
Otherwise, we're getting into some Better Call Saul bullshit, and I'm going to real disagree with that.
I've been saying this since season 1. He deserves an Emmy for the body of work because playing Homelander, the very twisted version of Superman in the Vought universe, there's a lot of elements to this character that really make it very different than Clark Kent, to put it mildly. And Starr taps into this like nobody else.
Yeah.
He really has found this way to show about how basically it's Shazam more than Superman that he's referencing, because it's a man-child.
Yeah.
That has superpowers and no care or responsibilities that he believes in because he thinks he's a god.
Uh-huh.
And this is an episode that when you start watching it, you really are sold on his performance because he goes into a lot of deep emotions for a character that has been very substance-driven. Of just his image has been everything to him. But this really peeled the layer back and you got to see a deep insight. A very broken character and one that is, it's been the number one villain on the show to begin with.
Pretty much, yeah.
But now you're starting to see the slow unhinging even more so. That obviously, knowing that we only have one season left, it will be very interesting to see how they set this up with him, as it almost kind of feels like they're now kicking off his farewell tour.
That's what it seems like.
But it is an episode that jumps out, and to echo Eric Kripke, the showrunner of The Boys, give him the damn Emmy already. Like, there should be no question. If he's not nominated and winning that, we will have a lot to say about that on the post-Emmy show. I don't really cover the Emmys too much because...
I pay attention to who wins. I read the list on, Variety or Hollywood Reporter, and I go about my day.
Yeah, but I think, like you touched upon, Better Call Saul did not win one.
Didn't win one, period.
I don't believe The Wire did.
Probably
which
not.
is a shame. So that being said, like I have, that's just my general opinion about award shows. I don't think that sometimes they get it right, but that's just my opinion, folks. If you think they do, great. Like I said, I'm not hating on it, but I will be having a lot of angry words if Starr is not walking away with this year's Emmy after this performance. Because that is what really stole this episode and obviously was a no-brainer to kick off the show this week. So we have to really deep dive into it. So that being said, if you haven't seen the episode, go watch it and join us, because in 3, 2, 1, Pad, let's break it down.
Episode, like I said, absolutely incredible. Anthony Starr was an absolutely incredible performance from start to finish. The storyline with Annie, was I didn't fully anticipate where that was going, but by the end I was like, oh my God, this is compelling television. And just everything about the episode was, incredible. And one scene in this episode particularly was the most horrific thing I've seen on television, and I actively had to look away from my television. If you've seen the episode, you probably got a good idea which scene I'm talking about. Yeah.
There was a lot going on with the show. But this one was really Anthony Starr's Emmy performance. And there's no other way to describe it, because his story has been the driving force of this entire show. Well,
and that's true, because you think about it, even to like the Marvel and DC side of things, typically with those properties, whether it's Batman, Superman, Flash, or even Captain America, Thor, Spider-Man, there's always at least a big bad they're going up against. The level might vary, whether it's, a AAA bad or a C-list bad.
Sure.
How many big bad guys have they faced in this show since episode 1?
Well, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
They really haven't.
They really haven't. There hasn't been any, earth-shattering, oh my God, we need to call the 7. The 7 are the only ones who can save us. It's not really happening. It's not really a thing. They're more PR public faces that are just going about doing their thing.
Well, it all goes to show how deeply detailed Butcher's plan is to been taking them down. And obviously recruiting the rest of the team involved. Their journey has gone in a different direction than it started in season 1.
Right.
And I like how it's been set up on the show. I really do.
Oh, yeah.
But it also makes for a very compelling story if they don't go and immediately fight Homelander.
Sure.
And to go around and get introduced to this crazy world of soups and see how this all translates into what has now been building for 4 seasons, and fans are just hooked on the television to watch. And that is the ultimate showdown. And because there's a child involved, that's the root of this entire issue.
Yeah.
And that is Ryan, Homelander's son, and that Butcher has a vested interest due to
his connection with Ryan's mother.
Yes.
Which is Butcher's ex-wife, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's,
couldn't remember if they were still married or not. I don't think so.
Right, but still, that's a very disturbing story that happens there. And to see that Ryan is now getting torn between 2 families, so to speak, and to see that he's siding more so going back to Butcher, who has only a few months left to live.
Yeah.
This has really driven Homelander over the edge. And along with his mortality that he's noticing he's getting gray hairs and he can't handle this, is really caused a breakdown. And that's where we jump into the episode where he goes back to the laboratory where he was experimented on.
Because in the previous episode, I think it was like the last scene he was in the previous episode, he went up to the mirror he had broken earlier in that episode. And, it was, of course, broken mirror, so there's a whole bunch of his faces on there, and it's, the multiple personalities or the multiple voices in his mind or whatever you want to say for this instance, saying, hey, listen, this is all right. You got this. You know what you need to do? You need to go back to the source. And as you alluded to, back to the source is where this all started.
So he winds up going back, and this is where he goes into everybody that's working on the lab. He comes in with an ice cream cake. And he's trying to sound very jovial, but everybody knows the minute he comes back, there's a problem.
Right. And that was kind of the weird thing, was like, I couldn't initially pick up if they were like, oh, hi, it's good to see you again. Or they were just like, hi, what are you doing here? Like this stuff, you never come to see us. And then I quickly picked up. I'm like, oh, they're really uncomfortable because they know what he could do.
Well, that's the whole thing. He's their greatest success and their most frightened weapon.
Yeah.
To put it mildly.
Yeah.
Because he is literally a man-child with the powers of a god. So the fact that he comes into the underground laboratory and everybody knows something's wrong, the cameras are off, the guards are taken out, you see him just come down that elevator very calmly and come out there with, that very evil smirk of his.
Yeah.
As he's addressing everybody in the room. And just sets the tone for what he's going to do, because you can't sit there and think like, oh, it's going to be very nice, and it's just
it's a nice happy family reunion.
Yeah, no, you see him come in.
It's a family reunion, and it ain't happy.
Right, and as that portion of that episode goes on, you see him relive some of his demons, and especially with one that used to torture him.
Yeah.
To test his powers out.
Just to push the envelope and see how far they could go.
Yeah, because he was kept in an incubator. And
yep.
And the gentleman that was responsible for running it would play a little game where he'd shoot a paper basketball into the can, and every time he'd miss, he'd hit, to paraphrase a little bit.
Yep.
So Homelander decided, well, after everybody's having the cake and kind of having this very subtle, peaceful,
everyone's enjoying it.
Moment, I guess, you could say. He forces the one gentleman to get into the incubator.
Yeah.
And
the guy thinks he's kidding, and he's like, no, I'm not fucking kidding. Get in there.
Yeah. And he winds up killing him by turning it on.
Full blast.
Yep, because he was kind of toying with him like, well, I'll let you go. And the gentleman knows something's going on.
Well, because by this point, he's already tortured the other victim. We won't get into details on what happens there.
Yeah, it's just...
say things happen. It's not good. If you've seen the episode, you know.
So he was now starting to kill off a few people, and he ultimately gets confronted by the director of the project, Dr. Barbara Finlay. And she is somebody that is not backing down while all this is happening too, which I have to applaud.
Oh, yeah.
Because everybody on this planet is scared completely out of their mind of Homelander, that if anybody's around him. So to see somebody actually step up and challenge him, it's a truly refreshing moment. And especially in that situation, too. So Nancy Lane, who plays Dr. Finlay, just comes in the scene and is just like, what are you doing?
Well, because she's the first person this season to really call him out on his bullshit. And you got to think, up until this point, he's been presented by Vought and their wonderful PR team. He's the bright, shining hope of our future. The American tomorrow. He's going to defend and protect our liberties no matter the cost. He's going to do right by us. And not even 6 months ago, he murdered a person in the middle of the street on live television on presumably every news channel in that universe. Mm-hmm. Everybody saw it. He went on trial for it. So the footage was played ad nauseum for these folks. So all of a sudden they see this and they see just kind of the tension and everything that's going on in the background, surrounding him. And it's making people uncomfortable. It's making the general public uncomfortable. Vaught's spinning it, the best that they can because they're the mega corporation that is involved in everything in this universe. But people are scared. And she is the first person because she's seen him as a child.
Right.
She's seen him as a teenager. She knows ultimately who he is at his core. And she's ready to call him out. I'm like, listen, man, cut the shit. She even says, like, listen, what they did fucked up? Yes, but they were just following orders. And they were doing what they were told.
Mm-hmm. So you do wind up having these flashbacks of his childhood and his reaction, too, because they're calling him John, his real name.
Yeah.
And he's insisting on everybody call him Homelander. Mm-hmm. So she's the only one that really is calling him out and is acting like, the stern parent to him, which he sorely is needed. Mm-hmm. And it is a telling moment, too, because, like I say, you go through these moments where he has a flashback about, like I say, when he's being tortured, and then he has another one with the gentleman that Pat was alluding to.
Other things happened.
With calling him Squirt.
Yeah.
And there's a little story behind it. It's set in the boys' universe, which is meant for mature readers, so you can, watch the episode and kind of formulate your own thoughts there.
Yep.
But it's one that, with everybody in there, Homelander is keeping everybody on edge with his actions, but he's also venting his own personal demons.
Because I don't think he ever settled those demons.
I don't think he ever did either.
I don't think anybody ever sat down and had a conversation with him about what happened and how screwed up it was.
Mm-hmm. And this goes to show the depths that Star's performance was. Mm-hmm. Because for being the overconfident superhero, the quote-unquote beloved face of Vought, he's now showing about how broken he is.
Because on the surface, he is still showing that bright, smiling face that makes you uncomfortable if you've seen what has happened in this show. But on a deeper level, underneath the surface, he has gone fully over the edge. Mm-hmm. That there is no coming back from this, and there is no amount of Vought spin that if this were to get out, a la the plane sequence in season 1, season 2, whatever it was, that they can we can just brush this under the rug with some well-crafted cover letter. That this is a turning point for him.
Mm-hmm. So as they start going through, they have a great dialogue too, back and forth as well. And ultimately, it ends for him leaving Dr. Finley locked in the room.
Yeah.
While there's dead bodies around because everybody else has been killed.
Yeah, so he killed the two people, the two doctors, had the conversation with the director, and then came back and at some point along the way killed everybody else that was in the lab except the head honcho, and left her in the room. And somebody I saw pointed out online, that door was fused shut with his laser beams.
Yeah. And he leaves bloodied, smiling, going up the elevator. Mm-hmm. So his story ends there, but still, it's the more dramatic one, too, because of everything. He goes and digs deep and shows how broken he is and just how traumatized his childhood was growing up and how he was used to be a weapon. And that kind of fuses the person we see today.
Yep.
Because he's overcompensating, trying to be, somebody that he never was. Mm-hmm. And it's a very strong performance. Like I say, Star has just won his Emmy, in my opinion. I don't think there's any question about that.
Succession's not on TV any longer, so it's likely he could win.
Yeah, he's overdue.
Succession won everything.
Yeah, well, his body of work in every season thus far has been Emmy worthy.
Yeah.
You put all the episodes together, but this is the one that really stood out for his performance. So that's what we say. That's the strongest point of this episode, that it really overshadowed everything else that was going on. And that's saying a lot with the other big story that has been happening.
Yep.
And that is with the former Starlight of the Seven. I was going to say the boys, but she is a member now.
She's a member of the boys.
Annie January, who's played by Erin Moriarty. And her story has been one that I think is starting to pick up a lot of steam.
Yes.
But this is the one that we really see, and I think this is one is striking a chord because of how much political reflection it is, because it is dealing with politics. And right now they're in a presidential election. And knowing that the front runner to take the crown, so to speak, is Victoria Newman, played by Claudia Dumont, who is a soup who has been known to make people's heads explode.
She's not the front runner. She is she is the vice president.
Well, she's
she's VP, so she's one breath away from being president.
Right, but she's trying to work her way in there.
Oh, yeah.
And on the flip side, Starlight knows what she's capable of, knows that she's working with Homelander, and is now going to the opposition in the election to see about taking down Vought.
Yep.
And there is a bill on the table to get through Washington if they can play their cards right. And this is something that Annie's more peaceful group has been met with some confrontation from Homelander's very aggressive followers, if you will. So they're trying to walk the fine line very, very carefully.
Yep.
And this is where you're starting to see other members of the Seven, the two recent additions, really kind of take the spotlight here and run some places with it. And especially with Sister Sage, who's pulling everything that she can, being the smartest person in the Vought universe.
She is in charge in every sense of the word.
And just how she's manipulating everybody has been just a fantastic performance. Like Susan Hayward is definitely finding a way to set everything up. And she does have some help from Firecracker, played by Valerie Curry, who is more or less a conspiracist anti-superhero who has an axe to grind against Starlight. And they're now trying to go on the PR movement to get some more public favor back in the Seven's win column.
Yep.
While they're trying to set up a telethon.
In like the shittiest part of town.
Yes.
They didn't really touch on it, but if you watch the episode, you see they go and do the telethon or the live broadcast. You know, there is briefly one shot where like it's a wide shot of the stage, and the only people that are there are the ones on stage.
Yeah.
And it's in like the shittiest part of town.
Yeah, so they're completely staging this. It reminds me of the movie Wag the Dog.
Yes.
If you've ever seen that.
Yes.
Like, it completely reminds me of that. But this is where Starlight is now working to try taking down Firecracker, because it is revealed that they have a past history where Annie January was not exactly the, so squeaky clean person that we see today.
Yeah, but hey, she was a kid. Kids are stupid.
Exactly. So we do see that they're going back and forth because Firecracker is trying to expose a lot about Annie.
Well, she's just making shit up. She's adding numbers together, and you see that. This plus this plus this. 666. She's from the devil.
Well, she knows her fan base, and she knows that she can spin it. I mean, unfortunately, we have a lot of examples that can rile up some things. And this has been a reflection of that with the character.
Yep.
So you are seeing this go back and forth. However, though, Annie tries playing fire with fire. And she gets with the rest of the boys to work out a plan to take Firecracker down, where Butcher is now back in the fold. Even though he is dying, even though he is now hallucinating and seeing people that are not there, including his ex-wife.
Yeah.
And he more or less says, you give me this money, I will go and I will get the information you need. He somehow acquires funds nefariously.
Yeah.
And gets enough information about Firecracker and a time that she wound up having sex with a 15-year-old.
At a camp where she was a counselor.
So Annie winds up confronting Firecracker with this information.
I don't think they fully thought this through.
No, I think they were trying to grasp for anything because they know that Sage is overthinking this because Sage is trying to catch everybody off guard and they're trying to return the favor.
Yeah.
But Firecracker sits there and just literally says, that's what you're going to do? You're going to tweet this out if I don't do what you say? Fine, tweet. Grabs the phone and submits the information.
Yep.
Takes the stage and admits everything that she did.
Right before it can really blow up.
So this was basically set up by Sage to do this and take out Starlight, because then they start revealing about the secret information that Annie had, which is Annie had an abortion. And this is now caused, Annie to rightfully explode.
Oh, yeah.
There's no question about the performance here.
There's a little bit of time, not much, but in the time it's revealed to the time where Annie acts on this, people are freaking out. I believe she gets a phone call from the president-elect because he is the one that's like kind of spearheading this bill, and Annie's obviously the kind of like the figurehead for it. And he goes, listen, I can't be seen having anything to do with you anymore. I've got to distance myself from you. So she's effectively being cut off from everything she's trying to do to fix what's going on. And then she even says that her mom isn't answering her phone calls anymore, and she just loses it and goes, you know what? I'm going to take care of this myself. And this is where I think having Queen Maeve around would have really helped, because if Maeve were still around, she'd have gone, listen, you don't worry about this. I'll handle this.
Oh, I think so. I think if there were certain other members involved, this would have gone differently. But you see the rage pour out. Like I said, the performance of Moriarty in this was excellent.
Fantastic.
Because she just lets loose, because for such a personal secret to be unveiled to the public.
Also violating HIPAA laws.
Oh, yeah, completely. She snaps and is beating the holy snot
on live television.
A firecracker in front of everybody, which is what Sage wanted. So you almost have to think that Sage set this up completely.
Smartest person in I'd say the room, but let's face it, it's the planet.
So once this all happens, Annie is publicly embarrassed. That the morally virtue person that everybody thinks that she is completely thrown away. Her public persona is gone. And all is left is Firecracker sitting there bloodied but laughing all the way, because, well, she is going to be the one that looks like
she can play the victim.
Yeah, she can run with this. Even though she does have one of her henchmen winds up fighting Frenchie and Butcher, who is more of like a Mr. Elastic, and almost beats Frenchie to death. Who, he has his own little backstory too with his love Robin, and trying to cover up the fact that he killed his family way back when.
Which I believe they said in episode 3, maybe it was 4, that's going to come to light and it's going to come back to bite him in the ass. Well, there it is.
Oh, yeah, it did come in, and Frenchie wound up getting his ass kicked by Colin, or like I say, just winds up absolutely being killed by Colin. I'm sorry, Robin was somebody else. But Colin beats the holy shit out of him, and their relationship is done. So Frenchie, you have to feel for in this situation. He's been trying to redeem himself, and this is going to be a setback of epic proportions. So that is a storyline that's going on. Butcher winds up getting everybody out of there as much as he can, but this is a big win for the people of the Seven. Huey's story in this, though, I think was kind of on the back burner a little bit. I know they'd spent a lot of time about it. Now he has this working relationship with A-Train.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily a working relationship with A-Train. I think it's just he borrowed Mother's Milk M&M's phone to get a message to A-Train, because when A-Train shows up to meet Huey, A-Train's surprised. He goes, "What the fuck are you doing here? Like, where's the other guy?" So I don't think A-Train was expecting it. I think Huey did a little bit of his own work to get A-Train there. But yeah, he gets A-Train there to like, hey, listen, I need you to steal some Compound V, in order to help my father. My father's dying, and he brings up the what happened in episode 1 as like this explanation of why A-Train should do this. And he's like, listen, you killed the person I love way back when, just to help me out here.
Yeah, which, they have a unique relationship, to say the least. That's why I say it's working, because, Huey's working A-Train.
Yeah.
How long that's going to last is anybody's guess. A-Train does wind up stealing the Compound V, even though he is caught by a former publicist or CEO of Vought. So how that's going to play, I don't think it's going to end well for Mr. A-Train.
Probably not.
No, but I think it just kind of sums up what is happening here, because they're really trying to push the Huey storyline with his dad and his estranged mom, who's now back in the picture, because obviously with dad dying, she's now trying to manipulate something going on here. And
something's going on with her.
Yeah, there's just something way too fishy. Like, I'm not even doubting that Sage has something to do with this.
Could be.
in all honesty.
I'll say this: it's probably the easiest paycheck Simon Pegg's ever gotten.
Oh, I will say as well too.
Dude's been in like 4 episodes, maybe 3, and all he's had to do is lay in a hospital bed.
Yeah. So
kudos to you, sir.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a question of what Huey wants to do with it, and he does not inject him with Compound V.
Well, he wants to because that's who he gets the Compound V for from A-Train. And what is it? Butcher is in the alleyway when he gets the Compound V from A-Train. And he goes, what the fuck are you doing? I thought you were better than this. Why did you forgive him? This is the whole reason we're doing things, blah, 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 blah. And then he gets to the end and he finally reveals, towards the end of the episode, and he reveals, listen, I got the Compound V not for me, but I want to give it to my dad because my dad is dying.
Yeah.
And Butcher reveals at the end, like, hey, listen, that's great and all. I tried taking Compound V to cure what was wrong with me. It didn't work. And then we get to the end of the episode where Huey goes back to the hospital, sits there with his mother, and she says he doesn't have much longer, maybe a couple of minutes. And right as you think he's about to die, his heart rate kicks into overdrive, and he starts like sitting up out of the bed or levitating.
Yeah. So it does end on a very odd note with that aspect. I know there was a moment with the Deep and Sage again too. So
that was the uncomfortable part. Could not look at the screen.
Yeah, a lobotomy happening.
Self-inflicted lobotomy.
Yeah, it's the boys' universe, folks. We just kind of tend to roll with it. But overall, I mean, they end just on a very unique note with a couple storylines, but it just goes back to Anthony Starr. Stole the show top to bottom here. I don't think anybody held the candle to him on this episode, and that's saying a lot with Aaron Moriarty's performance as well. Yeah. So, I mean, Pat, final thoughts on the episode?
Incredible episode. A lot of interesting storylines picking up with this episode. Some more so than others. Obviously the Starlight and the Homelander ones are front and center. The Huey one, I'm not checked out on. I'm still like, okay, this is going somewhere because I feel like they're spending way too much time for it to be a nothing burger and to just be, empty calories at the end. And as far as the Frenchie stuff, I just don't care. It's nothing against the actor. It's nothing against, his portrayal. It just doesn't do anything for me. So we'll see where it goes, but I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with you. I mean, they have such a big cast right now. I mean, we didn't even talk about Kimiko's moment where she's confronting the group that was torturing her for many years.
Yeah.
The Shining Light.
Yeah.
It does happen very quickly, but it's not one that really stands out. And I think that, unfortunately, that's what you're having now with this cast. And that's something we've talked about with The Walking Dead, too. Like, when you have so many great actors on there and you can only give them so much screen time, it does sometimes hurt the product. But in this situation, it's always been centered around one major feud, and that's Homelander and Butcher. And then it's now stepped up with Starlight now with her new role, taking on Firecracker and the Seven.
Yep.
Everybody else is kind of there, but they need something.
Yeah.
Frenchie's one I don't mind as much, but I mean it's now been wrapped up. So how that is going to move forward, that's where I'm more intrigued with. And I mean it's a tragic love affair, but this is what happens in the world of the boys.
Shakespearean.
Nobody has a happy ending.
Not usually.
No. But that being said, though, an excellent episode that everybody needs to watch, and we definitely want to talk to you about it at ODPH Society. So hit us up on the hashtag ODPHpod. Wisdom of the Ages, episode 4 of season 4 of The Boys on Amazon Prime and Amazon Studios and Prime Video. Let's talk about it, shall we? First, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
The content you are listening to is part of the Nerd Initiative Podcast Network. For more info about the home of pop culture positivity, check out nerdinitiative.com.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and finally, we have an episode of a very unique series on Disney Plus that has split a fan base right down the middle, to put it mildly.
Well, I think at this point it's split into eighths if you think about the years, but yeah.
And we had an episode that universally has won everybody over.
Well, if you watch the episode.
Yes. And Pad, what is the show we're going to be talking about?
We are going to be talking about the latest episode in Star Wars, The Acolyte.
Yes, the latest live-action show on Disney Plus has come off to a very unique start, to say the least. The fan base, like we've alluded to, has been very divided about it because it's the High Republic. It's one that pop culture audience is not too familiar with.
Yep.
Everybody that's very much into the Star Wars lore, like Pata, he knows and can talk your ears off about it, and he's very happy with it. And it's one that we keep seeing just really evolve into, a murder mystery, so to speak, with a lot of moving parts. And I think that some of the fans have not been into it as much because there's a lot to process.
It's a lot going on.
But we finally get to a point here where we're starting to dive a little further into the whole mystery behind Osha and May, played by Amandla Stenberg, who is now caught in the middle of a very big fight involving the Jedis, especially Master Soul, played by Lee Jong-jae. And where their journey has taken them is right now into the face of evil.
Yeah.
To put it mildly.
Scariest helmet I've ever seen since Darth Vader.
So that being said, much like segment 1, we are going to be talking about episode 5 entitled Night. So, Pad, what is your spoiler-free statement?
Great episode. Probably some of the best lightsaber choreography we've seen since the prequel trilogy. I really don't consider, I consider the sequel trilogy stuff fine, but it's more in the vein of, the original trilogy, which was also fine. But listen, if you're going to talk Star Wars lightsaber fights, you got to start with the prequels. And this is in that same vein of just absolute masterclass. And the story wasn't bad. The story was okay. There's certain parts of it I'm just like, I'm starting to lose interest in. And it's really too much of a slow burn for me because, as you alluded to, this is episode 5. We've only got 3 more episodes to go this season. And maybe they're just doing a slow burn because they're going to come back for a second season. But where I'm sitting from not knowing if they're coming back for a second season, it's just taking too long for me in certain aspects.
That's a fair statement. I mean, it has been spoiled a little bit by announcing they're coming back. Because I would agree with you. If I did not know that information, I'd be like, we got a lot of ground to cover up. I would say, if I can make a comparison, this is like Moon Knight for the MCU fans. Like, you have a short window.
Right.
You're trying to get a lot done in time.
Right.
Are you going to be able to pull it off?
Right.
Because we had that same question about that series. That's why I get the vibe from here with the Acolyte. But I think we had finally the payoff we've been waiting for.
Because, I mean, the thing with this is the writer and showrunner, Headland, I think her first name is Leslie. Yeah, Leslie Headland has said that, like, she wants to do multiple seasons of this. But, like, as of this recording, we haven't had one yet. No second season ordered yet. So who the hell knows?
Yeah, I mean, I believe we had the announcement, but they've been very quiet about it. Like, nobody's really made a big deal. But I think everybody's waiting to see how this all plays out. But if this episode is any indication, I think our wait's going to be worth it because we really had an action-packed episode. And like you alluded to, this is probably the best stunt choreography they've done in Star Wars in recent memory.
For at least 20-some-odd years.
Yeah, this has been something just absolutely mind-blowing to see happen. We did get a reveal that we were kind of curious about how this is all going to play out. It delivered on every level. And this is one that really, going forward, I'm not sure what the direction is going to be, but I'm invested enough to see where we go because this was just from top to bottom the payoff we were waiting. Like, this is like the last 10 minutes of Rogue One.
Yeah.
But this is now stretched out over 30 minutes. So
yeah.
I was happy with this. And I think every single fan I've talked to that has even been very critical of the show love this episode for good reason.
Oh, yeah.
So that being said, let's get into that spoiler talk. So in 3, 2, 1, Pad, how about that lightsaber battle?
That lightsaber battle was not Anakin Obi-Wan levels of incredible, but it was goddamn close. Absolute masterpiece. I don't know who was the stunt choreographer on this cast, on this set, but good Lord.
This just delivered on every single front. And where we even jump into where Osha is back on her home planet. And well, actually, no, they're chasing after.
They're still on the planet they were in the last episode.
Yes, because they're trying to find Kelnaka, who has been killed.
Yep.
So he's the third Jedi that has been killed on that mission to Osha's original planet. So excuse me about that. But they're now there, and they do see that, well, there's a whole group of Jedis waiting, and a dark force has made his presence felt. And we do see who that is because that figure starts killing everybody in sight.
Like Palpatine wiping out all those Jedi Masters in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, just absolutely just like a buzzsaw. And the way that person was using the Force. Incredible.
Just insane.
Yeah, it was something that we haven't seen. So like I say, they just really took it up to a different level. And we do see by the time the smoke is cleared amongst the original run, Yord, Sol, and Jeki are the only ones left along with Osha.
Yep.
everybody else has been killed.
Yep.
And we're not talking about like, oh, is there a chance they survive? No.
No, they're done.
No, it's about as graphic as you can get involved in Star Wars. So this was something very big to see play out. So Sol winds up saving Osha and is now sitting there just, wanting to see who is behind this mask. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of tell that person doesn't not want to do, but there's some history there involving them.
Uh-huh.
So that figure disappears into the forest.
Mm-hmm.
And he just kind of, lays the information as, I know you.
Well, he says, you don't know me? Well, you should. And his soul goes, you seem familiar.
Yeah.
There's a familiarity there. But he can't put his finger on it.
I was waiting to hear the old Edge music. You think you know me?
Ha!
Kick in. And, somebody's got to do that now. We've got to put it out there for Metalingus to start playing during the fight scene here. But we do see that there's some background information going on. Jackie winds up capturing May. Mm-hmm. But this is where we started having the back and forth between whoever this figure is and May. Mm-hmm. Because he is on his own mission to kill May.
He's not at all thrilled with the job she's been doing.
No, and saying about how basically disloyal May has been to whatever mission is on. Jackie winds up standing off and fighting back as best she can.
I gotta say, considering how powerful this figure was, she did a good job holding her own.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta give her credit. She's a Padawan.
Oh, exactly. She was holding her own, and especially hitting the armor that he did have, because his mask was metal, the gauntlets were metal. I mean, Pat, how would you describe this whole scene?
This was nuts, and after the episode finished, I had to reach out to a buddy of mine, because I was Jordan Mason over at Cinelings. Shout out to Cinelings. Mm-hmm. But I had to reach out to him on Twitter, and I shot him a DM, because I didn't want to spoil it for anybody who hadn't seen it. And I messaged him, and I was like, did we just see Cortosis in live action? And he messaged me back in all caps, yep. And I went, son of a bitch.
Now, what is Cortosis, if anybody's not familiar?
Cortosis is probably the strongest substance in all of Star Wars, in all of the galaxy. It is the only known substance that can completely stop a lightsaber. A lightsaber can hit it, but if you think back to the Phantom Menace when Qui-Gon was like basically sawing his way through that door at the beginning of the movie, it cannot do that. It's basically the closest thing we will have to answering the age-old question: if Luke Skywalker's lightsaber met Captain America's shield, what would happen? It's the closest thing we have. And I didn't know it was canon yet because, hey, as well versed as I am, I can't see everything and I forget some stuff oftentimes. It's not the first time we've seen it. It was brought into canon with the novel that came out back in 2014, which, hey, that was 10 years ago. No wonder I forget it. From John Jackson Miller with a little help from Dave Filoni, titled A New Dawn, which was about how Kanan and Hera from Rebels met. It was introduced there, and it's had some appearances over the years, a couple Thrawn books, a number of comics, but this is our first live action appearance of the substance that is, if you're an old school expanded universe fan, pre-Disney, you're absolutely familiar with this, but hey, get ready, because this metal is incredibly powerful, but it's also incredibly rare. So, which is part of the reason why when the Jedi that survived started encountering, like they go to hit it, I think they hit his like shoulder plates or whatever, or even his helmet, and it just shut their lightsaber off. That they were like, what just happened? They were shocked because it's not super common to find.
Yeah. So when you do see the fight going on with Jackie, she is ultimately defeated by this figure, but she does do enough damage to crack the helmet.
Yep.
So unfortunately, Daphne Keene's character is gone.
Gosh, she got Qui-Gon jinned 3 times.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, there was no joke about that. Like
she dead.
Yeah, they were going to make no point like there was any chance of coming back.
They didn't want a Darth Maul situation where they could have survived. No. There ain't no surviving this.
No, but with the mask cracked, we do see who this is. And Pat, who is behind the mask?
Quimir. I think that's how you say it.
Yep.
Qimir, who we saw back in episode 2, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. And who a lot of people suspected, myself included, was the Sith Master that was teaching May.
Yeah, Manny Jacinto plays Quimir. Mm-hmm. And I said that masterful performance because
great job,
because it just tapped into the dark side fully.
You think back to his performance in episode 2 where he was just the bumbling apothecary salesman. You know, he was her dealer. He was her underworld connection. And he's just like, on the surface, would not expect him to be somebody who dabbles or is a dark side user. And just the switch he flipped once that helmet came off and revealed his true identity. Oh my God, it was incredible.
Yeah, just completely dived in, and Quaimir was sitting there just telling Sol, who's now arrived on the scene to see his Padawan dead, that I am planning on killing everybody here, and you're not going to know what I'm doing because I am a Sith.
Well, he claims to be.
Right. But
I think the line in the episode is, I'm what you Jedi might call a Sith.
So during this whole sequence, Yord decides to get involved.
Yeah.
And tries taking him out. And this goes as well as you think. Charlie Barrett, who plays Yord,
there's a lot of people on social media who were a little upset, and I don't mean that in a bad way. They were genuinely upset at what happened.
Yeah, because he gets taken out quickly.
He gets his neck snapped.
Yeah, very loudly.
He doesn't even get stabbed. He doesn't get a limb cut off. He doesn't get Qui-Gon'd, like Jackie did earlier in the episode. Nah, he just gets his head snapped around in 180 degrees.
And Quaimir is just staring there at the camera, just dead-faced. Like, what a cinema shot that was. That was wild. It was like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
Everybody getting killed here. Like, he's not joking about this. So there is another big fight between Sol and Quaimir. And this is one that Sol gets the upper hand a little bit. But he winds up losing. Quaimir is starting to take the advantage and is saved by Osha.
Yep.
So like I say, this is a very back and forth fight. But Quaimir is just right there about ready to do it. But Osha stops it. And how this goes about, I mean, this was a little crazy, the setup here.
Right. Well, because I think at one point during the fight, Sol disarms Quaimir. And he's ready to just end this now because he is, as they found out, okay, he's the master. He's been teaching May. He has sent May on this mission. All of these Jedi are dead because of him. Screw due process. I just got to kill him right here and now. And Osha stops him. And she goes, listen, you can't be about this. And Quaimir even gives him this whole thing of like, oh, you're following rules too much. If you never follow rules, they're never there for you to break them in the first place. And Sol hesitates. And he eventually, and I thought he was going to dupe him because there was the scene earlier in the episode, a little bit before this episode, where Yord and Osha were running through the Force, and we saw those winged beasts from the last episode. And Osha was like, hey, wait, we can't leave them. We got to go back. Otherwise, they're all going to die. And she starts leading them back. And when Sol shuts his lightsaber off, because he's got it like right up against Quaimir's neck. He's ready for the killing strike. He shuts the lightsaber off and he goes, you're right, I can't kill you. I was waiting for him to say, but they can.
Yeah. And
have them come in. Didn't. Those beasts did end up showing up, hauled him away, to which I instantly went, yeah, he's not dead.
Yeah.
That's not the last.
I was going to say, they almost Darth Mauled this.
Almost,
because Quaimir gets taken away by the Umroth. And very cool setup by Osha planting the light on him. So in the dark forest, moss attracted the light. So.
Although rep her droid, because the droid was the source of light. And he went with Quaimir.
Yeah, so what can we say? Desperate times call desperate measures. So May winds up using Osha's stun gun on Sol, so they can have a heart-to-heart. Meanwhile, like with all this chaos going on.
Yep.
And instead, the two sisters are fighting.
Yeah, they both try presenting things from their own perspective. It goes about as well as you think, with May going, oh, you're brainwashed by them. I need to save you before it's too late. And they end up fighting.
But during the whole skirmish here, May gets the upper hand, uses the Force, and takes out Osha.
Well, knocks her out, yeah.
Right. During this, we have a face-off moment because May winds up posing as Osha.
Because May's got slightly longer hair. She takes the lightsaber she stole from Kelnaka, cuts her hair off, and then goes and takes her clothes and swaps clothes with Osha, and then gets Sol away.
Yeah.
And then presents herself to Sol as Osha.
Yeah. So now there's a big identity crisis happening here. So this is going to play out to something very, very interesting when this is all said and done.
My one issue with this scene, it's not the whole singed hair thing I know people are bringing up online. That's not an issue for me. I don't care. My one issue with this is it's been established and it's been, mentioned in Star Wars that, like, when it comes to a master and an apprentice, they develop a bond. That like they can almost feel how the other one is doing across great distances. It's not exactly enough to know their thoughts, but they know when they're okay. They know when they'll die. Hence, the reaction we see Leia have when Luke dies in The Last Jedi. There's that connection. You're telling me Sol wouldn't be able to pick up that it's not Osha, that it's somebody else?
That's not his apprentice, though.
Right. No, that's my point. He wouldn't know that something's off. That, like, oh, I trained her for a number of years. Now, maybe you can explain it away like, oh, well, they didn't train long enough to really develop that bond.
That's where I went.
That there's not that connection. So that was just my one issue and my one gripe. I know some people are sitting there like, it's totally unbelievable that a Sith user could take out that many Jedi. Please go back and watch Revenge of the Sith. It's doable.
Oh, it's very doable. I mean, that's the whole point with the play here, that I think there's other dark magic involved.
Could be.
So if you do that could throw off the Jedi's completely. Meanwhile, Quimera is going to be the one to deal with Osha, because now he's looking for his apprentice, and how this is going to shape up. I mean, this is going to be anybody's guess.
And I got a hunch they might have tipped their hand a little bit on who Quimera is or what he is.
Oh?
Can't take credit for this. Saw this on social media today, and I went, wait, really? So if you go back and you watch the episode, specifically the very end where Quimera is going up to the unconscious Osha, there's a musical cue that plays in the background that is a slowed down version of Kylo Ren's theme from the sequel trilogy. The da 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 da. It's slowed down. Go find the clip. I know it's floating around on Twitter. You can probably find it on YouTube or somewhere else. If not, I'll send it to you. And then look up the theme on YouTube. It's the same thing, just slowed down. So I don't think Quimera is a Sith. I think he might be the first member, or the founding member, I guess you could say, of the Knights of Ren.
Ooh.
Because remember when we finally met the Knights of Ren in Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah.
I know it's a touchy subject for some folks, but stick with me. Remember what they look like when we finally met? Because they brought up the Knights of Ren way back in The Force Awakens, but we never saw them. All we saw was Kylo Ren. Not mentioned in Last Jedi. Brought back up in Rise of Skywalker. But remember when we finally saw them in Rise of Skywalker? They had wicked helmets, and they were Force dark side users, and they had red lightsabers and the whole 9 yards. It's what we got right here. So it's entirely possible Quimera says, oh, I'm what you Jedi might call a Sith. He didn't say, I am a Sith. He could very well be the first member, the founding member of the Knights of Ren.
That would be amazing.
Which, for all the people bitching and complaining about canon, and then it totally negates what they say in Phantom Menace that the Sith haven't been seen in 1,000 years. That still holds true if he ain't Sith and he's a Knight of Ren. Knight of Ren, not Sith.
Exactly. I fully agree with you about that, Pat. I mean,
I'm thinking Quimera isn't a Sith. He's a Knight of Ren.
It's a great theory, and I think that's where people just need to go with the show and let it happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that we as fans need to just chill and relax and let the story play out. Final thoughts on the episode, man.
Incredible episode. Some of the best choreography for a fight scene I've seen since Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith to me is still like the pinnacle go-to if you want to see Revenge of the Sith choreography. For those of you who don't know, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen did that whole fight scene in Revenge of the Sith on their own. No, there were no stunt doubles. That was all them. So that's up. It's up there with that level of choreography. It was incredible. And as for the story, I'm interested to see where it goes. The Osha May stuff, it's honestly taken a little too long for me, but with the kind of the twist of like, okay, they swapped roles effectively. It's intriguing enough to keep me going, but I'm interested to see where it goes overall.
Yeah, if they go face off in Star Wars, I'm good.
Yeah.
I mean, they just need a Nicolas Cage run in.
Maybe a little Nickelback.
Give it to me. I'm here for it. That being said, hit us up on that hashtag ODPHpod. What is your thoughts about the latest episode of Season 1 of Star Wars The Acolyte entitled Night? Let's have that discussion, shall we? First, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
You ever wondered what comics Mark from Vale Mai is into? What Zach from Left Behind's favorite MCU movies are? Well, Metalcore Nerds is the show for you. My name is Sean Mott, and here at Metalcore Nerds, we cover the latest things in pop culture, whether it be Star Wars, Marvel, DC, AEW, and everything else in between. You can listen to the show every Monday on Adobe Howl at 7 p.m. Eastern, or find it anywhere you find podcasts. after it debuts on the radio station.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and it's time to take a trip to the land of Game of Thrones. House of the Dragon has returned for season 2 with a vengeance.
Holy shit, yeah.
And really has been making a lot of noise on social media. Pop culture is tuned in because it is back to form for Game of Thrones.
Wasted no time to kick up a shitstorm. Oh my God.
Because the battle going on between House Hightower and House Targaryen, as I'm referring to it as,
That's the easy way to do it.
is getting out of control early. Matt Smith, who plays Daemon Targaryen, has caused a lot of chaos in 2 episodes because he is the MVP of the show. You can't tell me otherwise.
Only thing missing is MOP, Annie up.
Emma Darcy, who is playing Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen, is now trying to piece together
What the hell happened?
exactly because with the families now feuding, all the kingdoms are getting involved. Olivia Cook's Queen Alicent Hightower is now trying to play some defense and now going on the offense because the strike has now attacked her family, and everybody caught in the middle is getting basically drawn into what was sure to be the civil war of all civil wars amongst the families of Westeros and company. Like, honestly, this show has just gotten out of control and very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So, Pat, let us talk about the spoiler-free statement for Rhaenyra the Cruel, episode 2.
Incredible episode. You know, I had a feeling this was going to kick off very quickly and be one of the more memorable episodes they've had in their brief 2 seasons. And it was, you know, given the end of last episode and the death we had there and the little preview they gave it, like, this is going to kick off quick and it's going to be something to see. And it was. I loved everything about it from start to finish. And boy, the battle that's coming, it's going to be something to see.
You know, sometimes twin magic is not exactly what you believe in. And I think that we had some moments here that really set a high pace, really got the ball rolling, and obviously when it's a quote-unquote eye for an eye, everybody goes blind. That is what you're having here because there was a lot of setup work and a very strong ending sequence that, like Pat alluded to, the big battle that is forthcoming is going to be one for the record books.
I think it's going to be Battle of the Bastards level crazy.
Yeah, I can't see how it doesn't at this stage. And we're only 2 episodes in. Like, that's the insane part of this.
We still got 6 more episodes.
Yeah, so we need to brace for impact because we have to talk some spoilers about this. Because I know I'm going to start slipping up saying something soon, but it's an excellent episode nevertheless. So, Pat, in 3, 2, 1, did you have double vision?
I did, and it's funny you bring up Twin Magic, of course, the Bella twins from WWE fame. I never believed, like, how can you possibly get confused by that little stunt maneuver in the ring? I realized, you know, kayfabe and make-believe and suspension of disbelief. I now understand it because of the ending of this episode, and I don't know about you, I got confused for a second what happened until it played out the way it did. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that explains that. But no, the episode was incredible. You know, just the tension and the political maneuvering, I'm always a fan of. You know, I know it's not necessarily everyone's cup of tea. I love the political maneuvering. I love the behind the scenes and just kind of the, well, to borrow the term, Game of Thrones-ness and the machinations, you know, because it gives the world a little bit of feeling to it and a little bit of believability that, you know, we could see this happen in real life if we were in the medieval times. And, you know, certainly not out of the realm of possibility given those time periods.
It plays to the strengths of the show.
Yeah.
Because honestly, if it wasn't there, it'd just be a lot of sex and a lot of violence for no reason.
Yeah.
The political aspect of this
Yeah.
is what hooks everybody because you have siding factions, you have betrayals, you have everything going on for this big quest for power. This has been a theme that has been played out in many TV shows throughout time, but seeing how this is literally the backbone of the show.
And it's more complex than just, hey, I've got this issue going on. You pledged your loyalty to me. You need to fight with me. And the other side goes, yes, of course, you were right. I'm going to fight with you. We look back to the last episode where, you know, the Starks were visited and said, hey, you bent your knee to us. You need to pledge your loyalty and fulfill your loyalty and fight with us. He doesn't just simply go, well, yes, of course, I'm going to do that right away. He goes, no, listen, I've got to defend my realm. I've got to defend the north and defend the wall. If I got anything to spare, I'll help you out. It adds believability.
And especially under the climate right now, because with deaths happening and especially off the heir to the kingdom being killed by Daemon Targaryen's assassination call.
His flub.
Yeah, his flub, because he went through outsiders to go do a job that he probably should have done on his own. Not necessarily kill the heir, but...
Oh, you know he doesn't like to get his cape dirty.
Exactly. His faux pas has now caused King Aegon to go completely crazy, and rightfully so, because with Prince Rhaenyra being killed, it's all bets are off.
We got to give credit to Damon and Matt Smith. He's got a wicked poker face.
Oh, he does. I mean, that's why I say he's every time out, he is the MVP of the show. Like when he gets killed off, because it's going to happen on the show, unfortunately.
Because if it were me in Damon's position, and I'm sitting at that small council, and I'm finding out that I fucked up and I got the heir to my political rivals killed, I'm going to need a new pair of britches.
Yeah.
Because I'll have soiled. I'm going, oh shit, this ain't good.
Right.
But him sitting there, he's like, oh no, totally fine. Nothing to see here.
No, but this is where everything gets out of control because, I mean, Tom Glenn Carney, who plays King Aegon, is just absolutely losing his mind.
Destroys everything in his bedroom.
Yep.
I dare you to watch that scene and find me something in that room, not made of stone, that is still in one piece.
Mm-hmm. And like I say, it's a powerful scene going on because you can really see the frustration about what has gone on. Mm-hmm. And he's vowing to take revenge on Rhaenyra and her entire family.
And the entire time, all of the people surrounding him are like, listen, this might be her, this might not be her. We don't know. And he's screaming at them at one point, listen, I fucking know it was her. We need to go take her out and do this. And they bring it up to him a couple times in the episode. Listen, this very well could be Rhaenyra. But it's entirely possible it's someone, as they say, a little more close to the bosom.
Mm-hmm. So this is where it comes into play that you have his advisors coming in, like Sir Otto Hightower, played by Rhys Ifans, who is like, no, you know what we should do? Let's put this on public display and show what Rhaenyra has done.
Because he's bringing up the fact, of what the public is saying. And that's the fact that Aegon right now is not real popular.
No.
That you've got folks in town, in King's Landing, openly and vocally supporting Rhaenyra. And he sees this as, hey, this is an opportunity. As awful as a moment as it is, because as it's awful you lost a son and it's awful a kid died, but we can turn this to our advantage.
Mm-hmm. So during this scene, you do see the public is having a very distinct reaction to this. Alicent and Helena are taking in the overwhelming support from the crowd, and even when one starts chanting Rhaenyra the Cruel. Mm-hmm. So you do see that this is somewhat working about swaying the public.
And you can tell things are at a fever pitch because as his funeral procession is going on, there's a pothole in the road. The carriage carrying the coffin gets stuck, and the King's Guard are trying to get the thing unstuck. But at that point, because they're not moving, the crowd swells in. And things are at this, and they almost, I thought they were going to swamp the darn thing and flip the cart, the women were in. Yeah. And I got a little nervous. I'm like, oh, this could get ugly real quick. Because you could tell the crowd was at such a fever pitch and the tension was that high that they're having this visceral a reaction.
Mm-hmm. So it is very interesting to see how this is setting up. I mean, this is much like any kind of politics. Mm-hmm. If you can do some PR stunt to damage your opponent, this is what's going on. Rhaenyra knows this.
Yeah.
And is very much aware of what's happening, and she starts grilling Daemon about what has happened if he called this. And like you alluded to, the poker face does not lie.
Oh, yeah.
He is not saying anything, and she completely sees through it.
Because he admits, he's like, yeah, I ordered the death.
Of Aemon.
I ordered the death of Aemon. They clearly couldn't find Aemon, so they did the next best thing.
Yeah.
And she goes, did you order them to kill Jaehaerys? And he goes, no, I didn't.
No, but they did.
But they did do it of their own accord.
The two henchmen, as we will say, who I believe were referred to as blood and cheese.
I think so, yeah. Because one was a rat catcher.
Yes.
In the employ of the royalty.
Yes. So you do see that when they get hired, they start selling out of what's going on too. And Daemon.
Well, the one does. Blood. The city guard Blood.
Yeah.
Is caught and brought in there, but he doesn't give up the other guy. They go around looking for the rat catchers, and we do briefly see him, and he realizes what's going on, and you can see the look of fear in his eye because he realizes, oh my God, they're going to know it was me. They're going to find me, and they're going to kill me. They bypass all that. They take all of the rat catchers and hang them all from the rafters outside a building.
Publicly.
Publicly.
Yeah, so the goodwill that was set up for the cause of King Aegon is now gone.
Because, and again, with the Game of Thrones universe, we never know how much time has passed unless they overtly say it.
Mm-hmm.
But presumably, this is all within the same week.
Right.
I don't think it's necessarily the same day.
No, it's definitely not the same day.
But it's maybe a day or two later. So they've had, the funeral procession where things swung back in their favor, and all of a sudden they got all the townsfolk happy around them. And then all of a sudden, things are swinging back in the other direction.
Mm-hmm. So this is not going well for anybody, pretty much, to put it mildly, because Rhaenyra has now lost Daemon. Daemon is now going to look for forces because he knows a war is coming.
Mm-hmm.
And Aemond is, hiding out in a brothel because...
As one does in this universe.
Yeah, because he knows that basically they were coming to kill him.
Yep.
And
the only reason he's not dead is because he was there.
Yeah. So he is laying low for right now, trying to escape Daemon's reach, but how long will that last is anybody's guess.
About a week or two.
And then we do see that obviously there's another player that has emerged in this universe, and obviously having a very explicit affair with Chris Alicent.
Oh boy.
And that is Sir Christian. And when we see him involved, he decides to take matters in his own hand because he's now playing his own game.
He's feeling real big for himself considering the situation he's in.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Because, obviously having an illicit affair with the queen is one thing.
Yep.
But now in his position of power, he decides to do a covert action to take care of Rhaenyra once and for all.
And his whole reaction is interesting because he's the head of the Knight's Guard, King's Guard, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So at its core, he is the one responsible for the prince's death. I think it even gets brought up in the episode, when they're confronting, trying to figure out what the hell happened and how this happened. They look at him and they go, where the heck were you during all this? And of course he can't say because, as we know from the last episode, he was in bed with the queen.
Yep.
So he goes confronting everyone else except himself, going, this is your fault. No, this is your fault. I am totally blameless.
So he does enlist a certain member of his guard to go on an underground mission, so to speak. And what makes this very, very interesting is it's one of the twins.
Yep.
So we do see that he decides to send Sir Eric to go kill Rhaenyra because his brother Auric is there. So,
and his whole logic is, you look exactly alike. All you got to do is change your hairstyle, and you're good to go.
Yeah. So Auric is now on his way to Dragonstone to go kill Rhaenyra because posing as Eric. Like I say,
it's confusing.
It's confusing, but this works because this is what builds up this tension because Auric is there and he knows he's on a suicide mission.
Yep. Because he knows he's going to be in the heart of enemy territory, and because of what happened, security is going to be heightened.
So he winds up sneaking in there.
Makes it in there.
He does. Somehow,
flawlessly.
Some way. Yeah, he gets in there.
Gets to outside Rhaenyra's chambers, or whatever room she's in, and tells the guy who's standing outside the thing, like, hey, listen, given what's going on, I'm a little restless. Why don't you take the night off? I'm going to stand watch. And the guy goes, sweet, okay.
Yeah. So they wind up going in. Eric winds up going in. Eric comes right behind and tries stopping the queen or the assassination. They get into a fight.
Yeah, they do.
Like a legit sword fight going on. Not for the squeamish. This is Game of Thrones 101.
Yep.
And you do see that Auric is killed by his twin brother. And due to what he has done, Eric kills himself.
Right, and then while this fight is going on, Rhaenyra calls somebody, and I forget who it is, and that person comes in with a crossbow and is basically pointing it at the combatants. And he's going, who the fuck is who?
Yeah.
Who do I shoot? And he even asks Rhaenyra, which one do I shoot? And she doesn't answer him.
Yeah, because she can't.
Yeah.
But we do see that both of them are taken off the board. Which, this is Game of Thrones 101, folks.
So, yeah, this is the part that confused me was when the one died, I went, wait, because it was so fast and so
you couldn't tell who was who.
High-paced, I couldn't tell who was who. I'm like, so wait, who the fuck just died?
Yeah.
And then the other one commits suicide and impales himself on his own sword. I went, oh, well, that answers that. They're both dead.
Yeah. And then all the while, Aegon, who was trying to win over the public vote, Sir Otto is telling him, like, no, you've failed. And Aegon says, yeah, you know what? You're fired.
Yeah, I don't have to listen to you.
And
I'm the king.
Yeah, and sure enough, who does he appoint as the new hand of the king?
Sir Christian.
Yeah.
Because the thing he tells Otto, he goes, listen, You were my father's hand of the king. You're not mine.
Yeah.
Bye.
And that is how the episode ends.
And the other thing that gets brought up once before the episode ends with Otto is he's talking to, I forget who he's talking to, and he does bring up that there's another person that could be of use to their plans.
That's true.
We could get a third wheel going on this thing.
Well, like I say, this is Game of Thrones, so it's never easy. This is the definition of it's complicated for any relationship status. But I thought what they did was very strong. Like, they wanted to establish about the back and forth and how political structure is now faced with the public. Because if Rhaenyra wants to be queen of the kingdoms, she has to win back the public. Aegon sits there and literally tried the stunt, but his emotions took the best of him because he wanted to be perceived as a a threat as being king. You do not cross me and my family. And look what happens when you do. You killed one of my members. I'm going to take this out in tenfold. Like I say, the structure was there too, and then the final fight sequence between the twin brothers. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing.
Classic Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, whatever you want to call it, fight sequence.
Yeah. So, Pat, final thoughts?
Great episode. Super interested to see where this goes. The drama going on with this is must-watch television.
Absolutely. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH Pod, Rhaenyra the Cruel, episode 2 of season 2 of House of the Dragon on HBO and HBO Max. Let's talk about it, shall we? First, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder, and you better listen to the ODPH podcast, or I'm coming for you, and Batman is coming for you.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about. First of which is some unfortunate news because we've had a couple of big celebrities pass away in the last week. The one that was announced right after we recorded last week was unfortunately Donald Sutherland passed away at the age of 88. Of course, he was best known for films like Dirty Dozen, MASH, Clue, Don't Look Now. More recently, he was in the Hunger Games trilogy, also voiced in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes film. A legendary actor, phenomenal actor, and will be sorely missed.
Yeah, I mean, he is a legend.
Yeah.
And just like I say, he's been in so many different roles and could do so much on TV and film. Like I say, our deepest condolences out to his family, friends, and fans all over the world. Like I say, this is a legendary career.
Yeah, and then the one that was announced just today is the actor Bill Cobbs passed away on Tuesday at the age of 90. Of course, he was known for being, reading from an article on Hollywood Reporter, he was known as, he portrayed Whitney Houston's manager in The Bodyguard, was the older brother of Medgar Evers and Rob Reiner's Ghost of Mississippi, jazz pianist in Tom Hanks' That Thing You Do, and was the master tinker builder of the Tin Woodsman in Sam Raimi's Oz the Great and Powerful. He was also the role I best knew him for, and the role I first saw him in was the coach who had the brilliant idea of putting a basketball playing dog into the starting five of the Timberwolves lineup in one of the greatest sports movies of all time, Air Bud from 1997. Also, more recently, some folks might know him from he was in the Night at the Museum films.
Yep.
Fantastic actor. One that anytime I saw him in anything, my face lit up a little bit, just because I watched the hell out of Air Bud as a kid. It was absolutely wild to me that you had a dog able to play basketball as a kid. Obviously, I know the dog wasn't really playing basketball, but still, as a kid, that dog was actually playing basketball, and oh my God, just absolutely incredible. So definitely lost a couple good actors in this past week.
Yeah, I mean, to echo again, our deepest condolences out to his family, friends, and fans all over the world. Yeah. Like I say, legendary careers, legendary actors.
Then we got a little bit of movie/podcast news, because if you haven't heard, Marvel's got their own podcast, so we got some competition these days.
I know, I hear it.
I did give it a listen to. Real interesting check out if you're a Marvel fan. Not a whole ton, but there's some growing room. But the first episode of the Marvel podcast, they interviewed some dude. You might have heard of him. Goes by the name, what is this, Kevin Feige? You might have heard of him. They did a little bit, not a whole ton, given away, but he did give away a little bit of information about the project he said he is most interested in and most excited for, and that is the Fantastic Four. And he did say, quote, "It is a period film, and there was another piece of art we released with Johnny Storm flying in the air making a 4 symbol. There was a cityscape in that image. There were a lot of smart people who noticed that the cityscape didn't look exactly like the New York that we know or the New York that existed in the 60s in our world. Those are smart observations, I'll say," close quote. He did go on to say and reveal that when the Fantastic Four film is going to start filming very soon. How about the day after Comic-Con in San Diego? So that'd be Monday, July 29th. He said, quote, "Our director, Matt Shackman, has already moved to London and we start filming at the end of July. Funny story, we start shooting the Monday after Comic-Con. We start filming the day after on Fantastic Four." He said, "I'm extremely excited because those characters are mainstays, are legendary pillars of the Marvel Universe that we've never gotten to play with or explore in any significant way apart from Multiverse of Madness and a few fun teases before. In the way we're doing that film, so I'm extremely excited," close quote. So a couple of little interesting tidbits there about the Fantastic Four. He does talk a little bit about, I know, Deadpool and Wolverine, because if you don't know, he got really his Hollywood start working on the X-Men movies way back in the day, worked on a whole bunch. So it's an interesting interview, and the whole episode, if you're episode of the podcast, if you're a Marvel fan, definitely worth to listen to. It's out on all major podcasting platforms right now.
Yeah, I got to sub up to that when I get home. Obviously Fantastic Four, everybody's really excited about this movie, so I'm hoping it translates to more comics and develops that. But I think that this is going to be something everybody's really going to be keeping an eye on for, especially I like how he tipped off about San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
We haven't heard officially yet about Hall H, but
it was announced today. They're coming back.
Okay, that's what I was waiting on.
They're going back to Hall H, and rumor is they're going to be unveiling a lot.
Well, I think so. I think that there's a lot of questions in the air, especially involving Blade. That is one that I think is going to be a hot button topic. Yeah, and also the word mutants.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll be talking about that on a later episode, though.
Then we got a couple trailers out for the folks over at DC in this past week. Most recently of which was we got a trailer for the upcoming series that is coming to Prime Video titled Batman Caped Crusader. It's coming on August 1st. Don't know if we're going to get the whole series or if we're going to get it weekly. I hope weekly. Let it slow burn.
Yeah.
It's, of course, from the legend himself, who worked on Batman, the original Batman, the animated series, Bruce Timm. I believe was the one who worked on. I'll have to double check that. But reading from the little blurb on the DC video for the trailer. "Welcome to Gotham City, where the corrupt outnumber the good. Criminals run rampant, and law-abiding citizens live in a constant state of fear. Forged in the fire of tragedy, wealthy socialite Bruce Wayne becomes something both more and less than human, the Batman. His one-man crusade attracts unexpected allies within the GCPD and City Hall, but his heroic actions spawn deadly, unforeseen ramifications." Starring Hamish Linklater as Batman/Bruce Wayne, and featuring a star-studded ensemble cast including Christina Ricci, Jamie Chung, Diedrich Bader, Minnie Driver, McKenna Grace, Eric Morgan Stewart, Michelle C. Bonilla, Crystal Joy Brown, John DiMaggio, Paul Scheer, Reed Scott, Tom Kenny, Jason Watkins, Gary Anthony Williams, Dan Donahue, David Krumholtz, Haley Joel Osment, and Toby Stevens. From the minds of executive producers J.J. Abrams, Matt Reeves, and Bruce Timm, Season 1 of Batman Caped Crusader arrives August 1st to Prime Video. This looks, close quote, by the way, this looks incredible.
This looks amazing.
Oh my God. Like I know it's set in the 40s and it's kind of like,
don't care.
It's an origin thing, but I once I heard Bruce Timm was involved, I'm like, okay, it's in good hands.
That's all I needed here.
The cast, stellar. I mean, Tom Kenny, SpongeBob himself is in this damn thing. John DiMaggio, voice acting legend. Haley Joel Osment, did not see that coming.
No.
But the cast looks incredible. The show looks incredible. I cannot wait to see this. This looks like the closest thing to a reincarnation of Batman the Animated Series we're going to get, and it looks amazing.
Oh, I fully agree. Like, this took me back. I don't care. Like, I heard people were complaining about it's set in the 40s. I don't care.
Don't care.
Don't care.
Don't care.
It's going to be fantastic.
The other trailer we got is for a show coming to Max in September. No specific date given. And that was a trailer for The Penguin. Of course, this is the next chapter in the Batman saga from Matt Reeves. And about how the Penguin and everyone are dealing with the ramifications of what happened in the first movie of the Batman. If you want a real description of how this is going to be, if you've ever seen The Sopranos, think that, but set in the DC universe. That's the vibe I got off of this, and it looks amazing.
This reminds me a little bit of the current Tom King story that he's writing for Penguin.
Yeah.
A little bit, but I mean, it's definitely set in the Matt Reeves universe. So I really dug what I saw thus far. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see where this is going to go. But this reminds me of Sopranos, like you alluded to. Like I said, I'm all in about this one.
Sopranos meets DC.
Yeah.
The other bit of DC news we got is that we're getting a Lantern show. HBO has picked the series up for 8 episodes, and reading from an article from Variety.com, quote, "The Green Lantern's light is officially ready to shine again. HBO has officially picked up Lanterns, the first live-action series created expressly for DC Studios under co-chairman / co-CEOs James Gunn and Peter Safran. The series has been given an 8-episode straight-to-series order by HBO, with Chris Mundy, True Detective Night Country, and Ozark serving as showrunner and executive producer. Also on board, Damon Lindelof, Watchmen and The Leftovers, just to name a few, and Tom King, who will serve as executive producers and co-write Lanterns with Mundy's. Warner Brothers TV is producing with DC Studios and HBO. The show is based on the DC comic Green Lantern. The series will follow Hal Jordan and John Stewart, 2 members of the Green Lantern Corps, an intergalactic team charged with defending a specific realm of the cosmos from evil through the use of rings that bestow an array of superhuman powers. Per the logline, new recruit John Stewart and Lantern legend Jordan are 2 intergalactic cops drawn into a dark Earth-based mystery as they investigate a murder in the American heartland, close quote. Super excited for this, just because the Green Lantern show has been rumored for like what feels like 10 years.
Yeah, this has been rumored forever. I mean, obviously the Ryan Reynolds film did not deliver.
No.
But this one I think is going to be all there. With Tom King writing, I know that there's a very, either people really love his work or they really don't. Mm-hmm. I am a big fan of his. I know he sometimes delves a little more into the psychological stuff and the more emotional type of realms, like more than superheroic. So I really want to kind of see where that's going to go with this series.
Yeah.
But I'm very, very excited for it. I just wish that we were actually going to get his new God. So
I know.
Still holding out hope maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
Yes.
And then today, lastly, is a happy anniversary because on this date, 27 years ago, arguably the biggest juggernaut franchise of this generation was released and on bookshelves over in the UK. And that would be the first book in the Harry Potter saga, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or Sorcerer's Stone if you're here in the US, was released in stores, kicking off what would be one of the biggest franchises in Hollywood. Well, certainly one of the biggest franchises in multimedia between the books, the show that's coming down the road and video games. But yeah, 27 years ago, the series was released. As of this year, the series has been published in 80 languages and has sold over 500 million copies worldwide. And that's not even counting the audiobooks and how many copies of those have been sold. It's absolutely mind-boggling to think that it's been that long since the series first came out.
It's crazy, but obviously it's a global phenomenon.
It's the one time and the first time I can think of that there were midnight releases for a book.
Yeah.
Movies? Once Upon a Time?
Once Upon a Time, yeah.
Absolutely. Video games? Once Upon a Time? Absolutely. But books? Never heard of that. And it's the one instance I can remember going to our local Barnes & Noble with my parents one day, seeing a sign that they were going to have a Harry Potter trivia contest thing and telling my mom, we need to go.
Yeah.
And I went with my brother and sister. It was like on a Saturday or something. They put it deliberately then so kids could go. And I remember going with my parents and my brother and sister and the 3 of us combined trying to win this Harry Potter trivia contest, and we had read the books by that point so many times that our parents actually forbade us from reading it because they're like, listen, you've read it too many times, go read something else. And I thought I knew a lot until I walked into that room and I realized I was in a whole different level and did not win.
Yeah,
but it was still fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So definitely go out, celebrate some fandom.
Go watch the movies.
Go watch the movies again this weekend.
They're fantastic.
Obviously, after you go to the comic shops, because it is Wednesday.
Yes, it is.
New comic book day. And this is something new before you get started, though, Pat, because I know you've got some DC books to talk about.
I do.
Do you know the importance of next week involving DC?
If I'm not mistaken, next week, the DC books will go back to being released on Wednesday.
Correct. So for anybody that's been going to the comic shops on Tuesday to go pick them up, Wednesday next week, July 3rd, they will be back. And obviously they're kicking off with a big event called Absolute Power.
You might have heard of it.
You might have heard of it, but I know that you've got the final chapters on your list of certain crossover. Chapter
do.
5 was Action Comics, and Chapter 6 is Superman. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, so the one that is Chapter 5 is Action Comics issue number 1066 from Joshua Williamson. And this one reads, House of Brainiac Part 5. The Brainiac Queen is alive. Now that Brainiac has created his masterpiece, all bets are off. And Superman and his family are witness to a cosmic horror unlike anything they've ever seen. As we learn the true history of Brainiac, the main man, Lobo, must choose what side he is on before all hell breaks loose. Cannot wait to read that. And then, as you alluded to, Part 6 is in Superman issue number 15 from Joshua Williamson. This says House of Brainiac Part 6, Fall of the House of Brainiac. Superman and Lex have figured out how to stop Brainiac and his queen, but it will take a great sacrifice. Can they do the unthinkable to save their family and friends? This all leads directly into DC's summer event, Absolute Power.
Yes. The crossover has been absolutely lights out. And I will say this. There's a book for Absolute Power coming out this week called Absolute Power Ground Zero, number 1. So I will say this. I'm advising everybody to finish reading House of Brainiac before you read that issue.
Okay.
Because, not to jump in on you.
No, you're fine.
The book is broken into 3 separate stages.
Okay.
So one is dealing with Jay Nakamura, who you know from Superboy or Superman, Jonathan Kent.
Yep.
The second is dealing with Batman's fallout from the Failsafe storyline. Mm-hmm. So that kind of picks up there. The third is directly affected by House of Brainiac. So if you don't want to be caught, like I say, there's enough that you can jump in cold, but you'll have a deeper appreciation for what you're reading if you read House of Brainiac first before you do Absolute Power Ground Zero, which is it's a great read. That's one of my picks this week.
Good to know. And then the 2 at Marvel this week are 2 I reviewed for Nerd Initiative. The first of which is Darth Maul, Black, White, and Red, issue number 3 from Erica Schultz. This one says, Crisis of Maul. Darth Maul is fiercely loyal to his master, Darth Sidious, and a true believer in the Sith, but will a mission to a remote moon change his mind? Erica Schultz from Hollow's Eve, Amazing Spider-Man, and Leonard Kirk from Sabretooth bring you a Crisis of Master and Apprentice. This issue is absolutely incredible. The thing we should know with this whole Dark, Black, White, and Red, it does take place pre-Phantom Menace, so this isn't Clone Wars or in his crime syndicate days, Darth Maul. So this is Darth Maul when he's at his most primal. He's an animal. He's all finesse and brute strength and really not a whole lot of thought process. It's a great issue. It's a great great issue to read if you're a Star Wars fan. And like I've said when I reviewed issue 2, do you know who Darth Maul is? If so, that's all you need to know for this issue. You're good to go. You don't need to know any backstory or have read any other, intro pieces or connecting stories to this. You've seen Phantom Menace, you've seen Clone Wars, you've seen Solo, and you saw who Darth Maul is, and you know who he is. That's all you need to know. It's a fantastic issue. Highly recommend you pick this up at the comic shops this week. And then lastly, certainly not leastly, from the folks over at Dark Horse, you have Star Wars The High Republic Adventures, Saber for Hire, issue number 3 from Kevin Scott. This one reads, Ty York versus the Nihil. The former Jedi turned monster hunter comes face to face with a child of the storm. But who, or what, is behind the villainous Nihil's cowl? Meanwhile, Ty's aggrieved apprentice initiates a mission of his own to rescue the Republic Chancellor's son. Jedi Knight Ty York returns. This one's a fun read. A lot of action, not a whole lot of fluff. And the ending, I'm just saying, if you've been keeping up with this issue, there's a certain person who's been a little over anxious, a little rambunctious, I guess you could say, a little over eager to prove themselves. And as I predicted, they bit off more than they can chew, and it's going to come back to bite them in the butt. Although they might get saved. You never know. It's one to read. It's a great issue.
All right. Definitely solid picks. I know Star Wars got a lot of news going on. Charles Soule is leaving Star Wars 50.
No. Bummer.
Yeah, we might have some news about that coming up in the upcoming weeks. Stay tuned, ... For me at the shops, crazy week. Absolutely insane week. So I'll kind of do a little bullet point action. From our friends over at Comixology Originals and Stout Club, this is Mistland number 3. So if you're into a little fantasy action adventure, this is one right up your alley. Like they say, they're kind of doing a lot of moving parts with this one, but it's definitely a fun read thus far. So I'm kind of waiting to see where everything goes. our good friends over at Black Market Narrative and Image Comics, No One, Number 9, Kyle Higgins, Brian Buccellato, and Geraldo Borges. Absolutely phenomenal issue. I will say this, though. I did put this in my review on ODPH Podcast and NerdInitiative.com. There is a lot of adult situations with this, and with the story, there is active shooter.
Oh, okay.
So there is a lot of sensitive material with that. It does fit to the story, so reader discretion is advised. But it's a fantastic issue, obviously dealing with the fallout of Proposition 87 getting passed. So if you've been reading this story since day one and the complimentary podcast that comes with it, you're going to be very well pleased with what's going on, because with one issue left, I have no idea what to expect. And it is definitely an intense read, but it's a fantastic story, like I say, top to bottom. Over from our good friends at Boom Studios, Something is Killing the Children, number 38. So this is doing the year one cycle of Erica Slaughter. It's a standalone issue, and this is a perfect time for anybody to get into the series. Obviously, I'm expecting at San Diego we're going to hear about the show coming to Netflix. It was announced pre-SAG and WGA strikes, so I'm hoping we get a little update there. I haven't heard anything officially yet, but I want to. So fingers crossed for that, but great issue there. The coolest book at the shop returns for another fantastic issue. That is Grimm by Stephanie Phillips, Flaviano, Rico Renzi, and Tom Napolitano. Excellent issue, punk rock DIY. Love the series. One of my favorites each and every time. This issue does not disappoint. From Marvel Comics, Blood Hunt number 4. So a dangerous alliance is formed because the stakes are that high. Reveals happen, so you are going to be absolutely swept away by what is going on, and a deal is brokered that is going to blow your mind.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to put it out there. The crossover has not missed, in my opinion. I think it's been one of Marvel's better events in recent memory. It's been getting wild, and with one more issue left, who knows what the hell is going to happen. Over from Mad Cave Studio, Pat, are you familiar with G-Force?
I don't think so, no.
Or Battle of the Planets?
That sounds vaguely familiar.
So this is the return of Gotchaman. Now, I'm going to show you the cover of the spinoff that happened, but you probably recognize the character.
That looks real familiar, yes.
So Gotchaman is coming back via Mad Cave Studios. They have 2 issues out this week. One is Gotchaman Ken Deathmatch. It's a one-shot, Tommy Lee Edwards and Mindy Lee, and it's a spinoff of the franchise character, just a solo issue. Like, if you're into the franchise, which, I mean, it's been around since the 70s, the cartoons, I guarantee you've seen them when you're going to see the characters. Like, it's a very familiar franchise. I was super amped up to see this. I was like, hell yeah, I got to review this. Great issue there. And then the regular series coming out, Cullen Bunn and Chris Batista. This just takes you back. Like, if you have seen this cartoon, you're going to be just taken back to those first moments.
Right.
So, like I say, it's just excellent, storytelling.
Yeah, that looks real familiar.
That's what I'm saying. I'm showing Pat the covers here because we do it live. So both issues are out via Mad Cave Studios. Definitely make sure to go check them out. And then Valiant Comics, they are returning via Alien Books. So they're right now on the road to resurgence of the Valiant universe.
They live.
Yes. So they have a couple issues out this week, but the one I took a peek at, one of my favorite characters of that whole universe, and that's Ninjak. Versus Roku, number 1. So this is, I mean, it's spy business and set in the superhero universe. It's one of, like I say, I always read Ninjak. I think the former volumes that have happened at Valiant have always been great. And this one really has got me intrigued about what's going on, because it's a multi-layered super spy espionage tale that, I mean, it's got a lot of room to grow with. And obviously, I can't wait to kind of see what happens. I'm a big fan of Valiant. So it was one of my first, like, when I was really getting into comics, it's one of the first universes I really gravitated towards. So I always got a soft spot for that. I will talk Ray. I'll talk Bloodshot with anybody any time of day. That's just what I do. But if you want more comic reviews, nerdinitiative.com this week, over almost 40 in 2 days. That is what we do here, because nobody's doing the reviews like Nerd Initiative Bullpen. I'm just putting it out there. So you definitely want to make sure to go check that out, and then go hit up your comic shops, because there's nothing like going in New Comic Book Day on a Wednesday than going to your local comic shops to go pick up some issues. That being said, for anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. That's it for entertainment this week. So for the one and only Padawan J,
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.